Coming up on First at 4, we'll have an update on how flood recovery efforts are going 2 months later in Perry County. And President Biden plans to bring down health care costs for seniors. We'll tell you how.
Plus, things continue to look great in the mountains through the middle of the week, but a few changes on the horizon. Details coming up as Mountain News First at 4 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, we're going to start with a couple of breaking news stories. First, out of Laurel County, the deputies say a bank robbery suspect is now in custody. Police tell us they found the suspect's truck in Knox County. They say he was seen in a red Ford F-150. Now, the robbery happened about 12:45 this afternoon in Corbin, reportedly at the Community Trust Bank across from the KFC there in Corbin. Again, the suspect is in custody. You see a shot of him there from the actual robbery. We hope to have more on this coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Also, some breaking news just coming in the last moments out of Hazard from the City of Hazard Utilities. We understand the entire Hazard water system is now on a boil water advisory. They just posted that about 15 minutes ago. It is effective immediately and until further notice. They say this is due to required maintenance. Again, the entire Hazard water system under a boil water advisory. Of course, that is most of Perry County, and that boil water advisory goes into effect until further notice due to required maintenance. Well, it's been 2 months since devastating flooding here in eastern Kentucky. Cleanup, repair, and rebuilding continues. The Buckhorn community was among the hardest hit here in Perry County, but people tell us the parade of volunteers who helped them get back on their feet was unreal. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to a man who kept good records of all that helped him.
Nearly every home on this road here in the Buckhorn community was either destroyed or heavily damaged by floodwaters. Many lost everything, but people say they were amazed by also the flood of volunteers and good-willed people who's turned out to help them.
They that said that it was 7 feet.
Eric Schonblom showed me the book of everyone who's helped him or visited him in the aftermath of the flood.
Doug Redder is a leader of the group that's been doing most of this paneling.
It's a book signed by more than 150 people. He says many people from Mississippi, New York, and other places helped him and his neighbors. He says his home was cleaned out and then parts of it were rebuilt.
I would not care to go through that mourning again, but overall it's been a very positive experience because it shows how many people cared and how many people gave their time, their money, their effort to help out folks here that were in need.
There is a lot of work to do. There are cars that still need to be cleaned up out of ditches like the one here behind me. There is, however, a lot of work that has been done, such as utilities. Brand new poles line this road. Water service, I'm told, has been restored, and Schonblom told me that just this past week he finally got a shipment of gas to power his utilities and to heat his home. In Perry County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
While all roads are passable in the region, transportation crews do still have regular lane closings to continue making repairs. Following the flood, we shared countless stories of survival, loss, and people receiving the help they need when they needed it the most. But 2 months following the flood, there are still many landlords and property owners being denied assistance. We spoke with one Perry County property owner who was denied help by multiple disaster relief organizations, saying groups are denying these requests if people are not the primary occupants of these homes, even if they are experiencing a significant financial loss.
We need help too. You know, we're not asking you to, go beyond the means of it, but there should be some help out there because you're still losing a home.
WYMT's Alyssa Williams sat down with property owners to learn more about the struggles they are facing with receiving assistance for their losses. We'll have more on that tonight at 6.
And keeping an eye not just on the beautiful weather we have here in the mountains, but also On a big story we're watching in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the latest on Hurricane Ian. A position update from the National Hurricane Center at 4 o'clock puts it 250 miles south of Sarasota, Florida, or at least the eye. You can see a very pronounced eye on this hurricane as it emerged back over the Gulf of Mexico from the west coast of Cuba a little bit earlier on tonight. Still winds of 120 miles per hour. That is a Category 3 hurricane. We'll find out with the next advisory here in the next 55 minutes or so whether or not it's strengthened into a Category 4 since as it approaches the Florida coast. More information on track and things like that a little bit later on. But around the region right now, not much to talk about. Temperatures in the 60s right now. Beautiful blue skies everywhere, and we will continue to see that as we run through the evening hours, near 70 as we look outside right now. Middle 60s as a matter of fact, so it is a rather comfortable afternoon. Just a few clouds sneaking through parts of the Big Sandy. Nothing to worry about there. Keep that First Alert weather app handy, though. Not only will you get our latest forecast showing some chilly weather potentially tonight down into the 40s, maybe even upper 30s in some spots, but we'll also through the night have the latest on Hurricane Ian as it nears the Florida coast. We've got more on Ian in a little while, but we're going to now take it back over to Steve with the latest on the news of the day. Steve?
All right, Evan, thanks. A Louisville company is working on a drug to help reverse the effects of a fentanyl overdose. U.S. World Meds has received FDA approval for Zim High, an injectable device that shoots the overdose reversal drug naloxone into the victim, similarly to an EpiPen. This new device injects 5 milligrams, which is more than a victim would get with the popular nasal spray Narcan. It's also absorbed into the body faster because it's shot into the thigh.
Unfortunately, when you OD, a lot of times you end up with a lot of convulsion around the face. And then the fact that COVID hit, and this patient population, you now don't have to touch the patient. For first responders, that's, very nice. So you just take the product. It's 3 steps. You pull the needle cap off, you place it against the thigh of the gene, and you push.
Zim High just received FDA approval. Again, now Warren says he's hoping in a few years Zim High will be in the hands of every first responder in the country. A nonprofit in Knoxville, Tennessee says they're getting something that can help them battle the drug problem: fentanyl test strips. They are simple to use and can test if a substance has the deadly drug in just minutes. Tennessee recently legalized them, and the state says the pilot program had promising results.
In our state, our data so far shows about 81% of people adjust their use. And it was interesting because it wasn't just we use less. No, it was I decided not to use.
Tennessee state leaders hope that trend will continue as more and more test strips ship to various cities. Today, President Biden touted his administration's plans to bring down health care costs for seniors, including lower premiums for millions of Medicare recipients starting next year. CBS's Skylar Henry has more on that from the White House.
The Biden administration says for the first time in more than a decade, Medicare Part B premiums are expected to decrease rather than go up next year.
Millions of seniors and people with disabilities on Medicare, that means more money in their pockets while still getting the care they need.
According to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the standard monthly premium for Medicare Part B in 2023 will decrease by more than $5, while next year's annual deductible will be $7 lower. President Biden spent much of his remarks highlighting the recently signed into law Inflation Reduction Act, which caps out-of-pocket costs for seniors on insulin and prescription drugs. Medicare beneficiary and diabetic Bob Parent says the Inflation Reduction Act gives him peace of mind.
For me, the Inflation Reduction Act will allow me to do things I cherish, be able to travel, to see my grandkids.
This bill actually ought to be called the War on Seniors Act.
Last month on CBS News Face the Nation, Republican Senator Rick Scott slammed the law, which passed despite uniform opposition from congressional Republicans.
Far-left policies have led to record spending.
158 House Republicans have already signed a Republican budget that will cut Medicare and Social Security.
The president's focus on seniors' health care Tuesday comes less than 2 months from the midterm elections. A new CBS News poll shows more than 90% of Medicare-eligible seniors said they will definitely vote in November. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
President Biden also vowed to continue fighting to lower insulin costs for all Americans, not just Medicare beneficiaries. There's a new bill that seeks to protect abortion rights, and it's coming from a fresh face in Congress. Representative Pat Ryan won his special election for New York's 19th congressional district after Representative Antonio Delgado left to become lieutenant governor. Ryan has only been on the job for a little more than 2 weeks, and he'll have to run again to keep his seat in Congress in November. He is focused on abortion rights, starting with access to the abortion pill.
To really ensure that right to make that personal, deeply personal choice that I risk my life to protect as an Army officer, as a combat veteran, that every American should have that.
Ryan's legislation would expand on the executive order President Biden issued this summer to protect the abortion pill. The Guttmacher Institute says the medication accounts for more than half of all abortions in the country. The FDA has approved it as safe and effective for up to 10 weeks. Ryan has also joined lawmakers on the pro-choice caucus to fight other restrictions, such as the 15-week national abortion ban proposed by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. The Senate is preparing to vote on a government funding plan that's currently on thin ice due to a deal made by West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. Tonight's vote will determine if lawmakers will start talks on a measure that will extend funding, which is scheduled to expire Friday at midnight. However, the proposal includes a reform proposal from Manchin that will speed up the process for energy projects, including a pipeline that will go through Manchin's home state. Republicans say they may vote against the proposal because they want to punish Manchin for backing the Inflation Reduction Act. But lawmakers are likely to vote in favor of a short-term funding extension by the end of the week. Coming up on First at 4, a strengthening Hurricane Ian eyes the west coast of Florida. We'll have the latest on preparations.
And I've got the latest track coming up in just a moment, but otherwise absolutely gorgeous around the mountains now. That continues through midweek before those changes arrive. Details coming up.
If you've been